Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /entitled people, where people literally think they can do no wrong and everything is about them. And in today's episode, you'll hear from cops having to deal with nasty Karens. Guys, I hope you enjoy the stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So, a bit of background. I'm a law enforcement officer, and as you can imagine, we deal with a lot of self-entitled people. This is a funny story that I think you'll enjoy. It happened a few weeks ago, so it's still fresh in my mind. The day this happened, it was near the end of my 12-hour shift, and it was a busy day. My dispatch sends out a call to a local Mexican restaurant about a woman who's calling to have a cop show up. So I arrive on scene, and I meet everyone involved. The manager's up front taking orders, I assume to keep an eye on everything. There was also a woman and her teenage daughter, and the woman is looking pissed. I walk up to her and I say, "Hello ma'am, I'm Officer so-and-so. I understand you called to speak to a law enforcement." And that's when Karen cuts me off and says, "It's about damn time you showed up. You need to arrest the manager of this place right effing now, or I'll make sure this is your last day on duty." Me, very confused at her outright hostility, said, "Okay, ma'am, calm down. What did he do to you?" Karen screams, "He tried to poison my daughter and he won't give me a refund. This place is filled with scammers." I ask her, "How did he try to poison your daughter?" The woman tells me, "My daughter is vegan, and this man put meat in her food. And when I demanded a refund, he refused and he laughed at us like it's some sort of a sick joke. I want him arrested now." At this point, I tell the woman to hang tight, as I need both sides of the story. I also had a feeling that this woman was blowing things way out of proportion, as usually, restaurants don't maliciously do something like this to customers. So I go to the manager and I ask to speak to him about what happened, and he tells me this. He tells me, well, the woman comes in and she orders a meal, letting us know that she and her daughter are vegan, which is fine. We tell her it will take longer than usual to prep her food, as she wants it cooked a specific way, which again is fine. Well, since it's dinner rush and her having her food cooked a specific way takes longer, she was wondering why other people ahead of her were getting their food first. After a 15-minute wait and watching others get their food before her, wait staff went to hand another customer their food, and the woman, pissed, grabs the bag, thinking it's for her, and they march out before staff could stop them. 10 minutes later, they come back, and the woman is ballistic. She starts cussing out my employees, and she throws the bag of food at the wall. When I come out and offered to replace the meal, she called me a racial slur and then called you guys. I have the camera footage if you want. That's when I look over the manager's shoulder, and there's food on the wall from where she threw it. Now, the problem is, I can't make the restaurant give her money back, as this is a civil issue, so I have no legal authority on the matter. I just make a report and grab the corporate number for the restaurant. I then go talk to Karen, who is telling her daughter how mommy was gonna take care of everything. I tell her, "Ma'am, here's the number for the corporate office, as this is a civil matter. I have no legal authority to force a private business to do anything, and the manager didn't commit any crime, so I won't be arresting him today." Hearing that, Karen loses it. She says, "What? Did you not hear me? He tried to poison my daughter. She's highly allergic to meat. Arrest him." Now, I want to mention I had to take a step back because at this point, she was screaming in my face. Meanwhile, her kid buries her head in her arms and she was bright red. I tell her, "Ma'am, he told me that you, in a rage, grabbed the wrong food order and marched out. He even attempted to fix it and you refused to accept it. There was no attempt to poison your daughter." This is when Karen says, "I want to speak to your supervisor." At this point, I put out on the radio for my supervisor, but they're busy with a shift change. I then look at the manager, who walked up to me with that "I'm tired of this lady crap" look on his face. He tells me I would very much like this lady to leave. I tell him I can trespass her if you'd like. The manager then smiles and says yes. My supervisor arrives on scene a little while later, and I explained what was happening and what the manager wanted. So my supervisor walks up to Karen and speaks to her. He comes back to me, holding back laughter. He told me that Karen said I was unprofessional, I cussed at her, and I called her a vegan bitch, and she asked for my information so she can file a formal complaint against me. That's when he let her know that they wear body cameras, and if she were to lie about me saying that, she would be in big trouble. Now, I guess Karen didn't realize that the big black box in the center of my uniform was a body camera, and she quickly backtracked. The manager filled out the paperwork to have her trespass from the property. And my supervisor let me tell her, "Ma'am, as I've said before, this is a civil matter, but you've been trespassed from this property and you must leave, or else you'll be subject to arrest." This is when Karen says, "I'm a tax-paying citizen of this country, and you should be arresting him." Now what happened next makes the story really crazy. Karen's daughter, who's been silent the whole time, speaks up and says, "Mom, cut the crap, stop it. You're making it way worse than it needs to be. You're gonna get arrested." I just thought to myself, smart girl. All of us were in complete disbelief at what the daughter said, and Karen turns bright red and she walks out of the restaurant with her daughter following her. The restaurant manager thanks us, and I finally get to go home. Another day on the job. Yeah, I can only imagine the ridiculous calls that police officers respond to on a daily basis. Like, what a mega Karen, right? Demanding the restaurant's manager, then the police officer's superior, all to try to get what she wants. And guys, I love the fact that the daughter was like, "Mom, shut up before you go to jail." But seriously, I do wish the woman got arrested, so she'd at least learn that her actions have consequences, right? Like, you can't just throw food at the wall of an establishment, call the manager a racial slur, and then get to walk away like nothing happened. Okay, so I'll keep the backstory short. This involves my super crazy ex-girlfriend who is a gold digger and a Karen. I committed the mistake that so many men have. A good-looking girl gave me attention. I dated her for 2 months before she let the crazy come out. She took my credit card out of my wallet when I was sleeping, and she decides to go on a little shopping spree. She spent a little over $2,000 before I found out the next morning. Of course, an argument ensued, and her defense was, quote, "She needed to look pretty for me all the time, on my dime." I broke up with her after that argument, and I told her to get the F out of my house. We had dated for like 2 months, like I said. With the backstory over, I have a good friend who we'll call Bob. Now, Bob is a cop. Well, more like a detective, but Bob drives an unmarked Tahoe as his police vehicle. Anyways, I broke up with my ex on a Tuesday, and on Thursday, we were getting ready for the poker game around 5 p.m. Bob and his partner stopped by my house to drop off his buy-in to say hi. He was also trying to get his partner to come join us later that night. So there we are, Bob and his partner in my house just hanging out. And that's when we start hearing banging noises, shortly followed by a car alarm going off. So we step outside, and there's my ex-girlfriend with a hammer going hard on this unmarked police car. All three of us stood there in amazement. She sees us and says, "You broke my heart, now I'm gonna smash up your car." At this point, I'm smirking, thinking, that's not my car. I also drive a black vehicle, which she's been in so many times, but my vehicle is not a Tahoe. It's a black Toyota 4Runner. But to some, black vehicles are black vehicles, right? No difference in make and model, especially in the dark. Well, my ex gets another couple of bashes in, and that's when Bob goes, "Who's that?" Now, Bob has not met my ex, only heard of her. I go, "That's my ex-girlfriend that I broke up with on Tuesday." He goes, "Oh, that makes sense." Now, I was actually kind of surprised at how reserved Bob was. But I guess it's not every day that a crazy ex-girlfriend mistakes an unmarked police car for her ex-boyfriend's car. At this point, I'm grateful for 2 things. Number 1, I have 2 police officers with me. And number 2, my ex isn't smashing up my car, but the cop's car. At this point, Bob pulls out his pepper spray and he flashes his badge, and he orders my ex to put down the hammer. My ex tells him that he can go F himself, as this isn't his problem, as she takes another swing at his unmarked police car. Bob then gets closer, and he introduces himself as a detective, flashing his badge. He was in plain clothes, and he demands she put down the hammer once more. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting there thinking, oh boy, this girl's about to get pepper sprayed on top of being arrested for vandalizing a patrol car, which she thinks is mine. She is brilliant. It's at this point she stops, looks at Bob and goes, "Is that effing pepper spray?" To which Bob goes, "Yes, I'm a cop. Now put down the hammer." She then had this really defeated look on her face. My excitement is going down. She drops the hammer, and Bob does this thing. He places her in handcuffs as she's crying, trying to justify why it's okay for her to destroy my car. And the thing is, it's not my car. At this point, Bob informs her that she actually didn't damage my car. She damaged an unmarked police car. And oh boy did she get angry. Cause you see, she's still going to jail, but she didn't actually do the thing she wanted to do, which was damage my car. She goes, "You're kidding me." I could tell Bob's partner was having a laugh at this whole situation, and so was I. His partner then reaches into the Tahoe and turns on the emergency lights, and the whole thing lit up like a police car because it was a police car. By now, Bob had called a regular police car because his car wasn't equipped to transport suspects. Meanwhile, my ex is sobbing. She then looks at me and says, "Please, please don't press charges." To which Bob informs her that it's not my decision to press charges or not, since it wasn't my vehicle that was damaged. He told her the city would most definitely be pressing charges for damaging government property, and she cries even more. Fast forward a bit and a normal unit arrives. Bob briefs the cop on what's going on. The cop looks at Bob's patrol car and he goes, "She did a number, huh?" He then chuckles and places her in the back of the car. And that was the last time I ever saw Tiffany. Bob and his partner showed up to the poker game later that night and we had a good laugh. Apparently, she was hit with quite a few charges. Holy moly, what a mistake that was. And this is why you don't go smashing up people's cars, guys. And if you absolutely have to, make sure it's the right car. Freaking hilarious though that she was beating the crap out of a patrol car and never realized it. And that's what she gets, right? Play dumb games, win dumb prizes. I'm with my country's National Highway Patrol. About a week ago, I was designated on a traffic enforcement operation along several highways located in several small regions, mostly to curb speeding. After doing something like 40 stops, I got called to assist a local police department for a disturbance. The disturbance was located at a weekly outdoor market. Now these aren't unusual, but this particular market was a big highway side market that was technically in a city that has tons of these outdoor markets. Upon arrival, a single bike cop had two females and a male separated. We take the older female and male, who are shopkeepers, and start the investigation. Apparently, the younger female did some sort of a scam involving the use of fraudulent coupons at the lady's store. She ends up receiving a small amount of money from the scam. The female shop owner realized what happened, and the male shop owner apprehended the female. It was then figured out after the apprehension that she shoplifted as well. So I spoke to both shopkeepers and the market owner. No one wanted to press charges, the owner just wanted her to leave. Overall, the worth of the stolen property and money was around €10, which is $11 US. I then meet with a local officer. Meanwhile, she's yelling about wanting to leave and we just ignore her. I explain what I was told, and our conclusion is we're happy to do a trespassing and minor business disturbance infraction that typically carries a penalty of around €45. We deliver our verdict to the subject, which did not go well. Upon hearing this, she starts screaming, hooting, hollering about us falsely imprisoning her by not letting her drive away. She then starts going towards her car, so the officer and I attempt to load her into the back of my car, much to her dismay. And this is when she yells how she's gonna say the male officer I'm with SA'd her, and then she pushes away from the car. We wrestle with her, which she goes to the ground, and then pick her up and get her back in the car. Meanwhile, she's screaming how the male officer keeps groping her. She also started screaming how she'll come back for the shop owners and F them up. I asked if that's the story she's gonna stick with because everything's on camera. She won't stop screaming, and eventually we get a yes out of her. So we transport her to the local police station's holding facility. And per national law enforcement standards, the National Police have to be informed of all accusations of officers sexually battering people. We end up charging her with the original business disturbance infraction order, but then we added a few criminal charges. theft by deception, resisting lawful detention, and criminal threatening. We submitted dashcam, body cam, written reports, and witness statements to the National Police, which showed that the officer did not grope or touch her anywhere close to a place he shouldn't have. She refused to see a victim's nurse, and she also refused to comply with questioning from National Police regarding her allegation saying he grabbed her. The police charged her with wasting police time and giving a false report as well. This lady is looking at 8 years and 90 days imprisoned, but that's the max sentencing. She'll probably get a super low sentence. Oh man, turning a simple fine into potential years in prison. Like, some people just don't know when to quit, do they? So I was recently reminded of a no-knock raid I partook in a few years ago. I wanted to share. My role in this was to sit in a patrol car and hit the lights and sirens when we breach. The guy we were going after was a major member of a gang that dealt with drugs, and they were in a gang war with a fellow gang over turf. The suspect in question had just gotten out of a 10-year prison sentence, and he made it clear that he wouldn't go back to prison without a fight. We had a warrant for his arrest because he shot 2 gang members in a shootout and both of them died. We knew this guy wasn't scared to fight. He didn't want to go to prison and he had guns. So we did our normal process. We roll up and we're getting in position. The main breaching team is about to get to the front door when the door swings open and a completely naked man comes running out, hands up yelling, "Don't bust down that door, my mama's gonna kill me." He then runs into the yard and lays face down without anyone telling him anything. The breaching team moves into the house and I hit the lights and siren and move to help handcuff the guy. As I get to him, he's begging us, "Don't break that door, my mama's gonna kill me if y'all do. Take me to jail, but don't break the door. I'll go to prison, but I don't want my mama to hit me." The guy kept saying that over and over again. So I look up and I see the door is intact and perfectly fine, but I'm still confused at this point. Needless to say, this isn't how we imagined the no-knock would go. But I say to the man, "Don't worry, the door's fine." He then goes, "Thank God. Can y'all bring me some shorts before you lock me up?" At this point, the house is clear. One of the SWAT guys is walking an older black woman out of the house. She's smiling and laughing as she's just going on and on about her door, and how if we broke the door, she was gonna break into prison and give him the biggest ass whooping of his life, and how her son is an effing fool for being involved in a gang, and how we better lock him up and throw away the key. She then told me that she's tired of being woken up by cops kicking down her door, and her door better be okay or she's gonna kill her son. She's just going on and on and on about him. At this point, a detective walks over and confirms the suspect we have is who we need to cuff. Meanwhile, he's going on about the door and thanking us for not breaking it down because he doesn't want his mom to kill him. He then asked us to be nice about searching the house, and he tells us, "Man, I don't want you to tear up my mama's house looking for guns and drugs. Walk me in there and I'll show you where I put everything, but please don't tear up my mama's house or I'll never hear the end of it." We send a cop in to get the guy some shorts so his junk's not hanging out, and the situation's become clear. The suspect knew we were coming. He saw us rolling up and he didn't want us to damage his mom's house, so he took off his clothes and ran out to the front yard. He said he didn't have any clothes on because he wanted us to know he didn't have any weapons on him. He just wanted to go to jail peacefully and he knew he was busted. The detective decides that we'll let him walk us through the house and he'll show us where all of his guns and drugs are. So he goes in the house with an officer and the detective and I get sent to deal with the angry mom. Now you could tell she was a nice lady, but she's had enough of her son's crap. She kept going on and on, how he's always like this, how he always thinks about himself and not others, how he's always been an entitled fool. I just told her we won't be taking apart her house and her son was showing us where everything was. She then told us, "You'd better lock him up and throw away the key." I asked, "Why's that?" And this is when she said, "I'm tired of his selfish, entitled ass. If y'all don't lock him up, I'll murder him my damn self and I'll go to jail." We all laughed. The suspect was honest and we found everything we needed. We then told the mom that even though her son showed us where everything was, we'd be running a drug dog through the house and we'd be searching for a little bit. But we'd be careful to not mess her house up. She thanked us and offered us a coffee. Now, this story is a legend in our department, and something I still crack up about when I think about it to this day. The suspect got 20 years in prison. He confessed to everything. And this is the power of a mama bear, guys. Like, it's so funny that her own son, who's in gangs, does all the illegal stuff, and probably isn't scared of stepping up to anybody, is still scared crapless of his own mom. With that said, though, it is so sad that it got to the point of mom just going, "I give up. Take him away, lock him up, and throw away the key." Absolutely wild. So if he does come back, and he added some notes that you might find entertaining. He said, the guy who was supposed to bust down the door says it still remains one of his most memorable moments on the job. Here he is, having spent hours and hours getting ready to bust down a door, his heart's pumping, he has 6 guys behind him ready to kick ass and take names, and he's thinking in his head, alright, I'm gonna bust down this door, move in, and we're gonna get this guy. And before he even gets to the door, it swings wide effing open, and out comes a suspect. He said none of his training prepared him for this. He wasn't sure what the F to do. We don't train for what happens if the person you're after in a no-knock comes running out into the yard. Also, the guy who was supposed to be on point with the shotgun was confused as well. Oh, and the suspect was really effing lucky he didn't get shot. All I know is when I saw him coming out, I was like, are we about to start shooting? Because it was all so sudden. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/EntitledPeople. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/EntitledPeople episode. Another one where Psycho Karens are getting arrested yet again. It's such a wild episode. So go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.